This conference will now be recorded.
Sydney, I can't hear you. I don't know if you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You may conduct the call at this time.
I apologize. My speaker was having issues. Okay. All right. So this will be roll call for the May 29th full council meeting. Jerome Hill,
Present.
Pat Smith, Justine Patterson,
Present.
Lynn Shirley, Mr. Alexander Jordan,
Here.
Christopher Benjamin, Corey Simon,
Here.
David Clay,
Here.
Keantha Moore, Marcus Smith,
Present.
Marva Preston, Mike Mason, Raymond Spalding. I think he was here earlier. Reggie Leon,
Here.
Rosalind Osgood,
Here.
T.W. Fair, and Webster Barnaby. All right, Mr. Chair, that concludes roll call.
Thank you, Sydney. I call this meeting to order. Thank you all for your continued dedication and hard work. We have a comprehensive agenda to cover today, and I appreciate your preparedness. Next item that we have on the list is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda is approved. The next item on our agenda is to welcome our new council members. I'm delighted to introduce them to you today. Their expertise and insights will be invaluable as we continue our mission to improve the social status of Black men and boys here in the state of Florida. First, I'd like to go ahead and really introduce Senator Corey Simon. Senator Simon,
Yes, I'm here.
how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm actually on the road driving at the moment.
Okay, we won't take a little bit of your time. We just wanted you to tell us a little bit about yourself as it relates to the council and how you came upon the council.
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me. I'm overjoyed by the appointment. Our Senate President, Senator Pasadomo, um, asked me if I would join this committee, and I absolutely jumped at the opportunity. I've been working with young men for a long time. I still run my youth program, my Pop Warner program in Leon County for the last 13 years, and before that, had a mentoring program called Corey's Kids in Leon County for our foster kids, for our foster youth, for about 7 years. And so this has been the passion for me. I tell people all the time, the things that make me no money make me happy, and it's really getting out and having an impact in my community for young men, young Black men specifically, because I think we need to be present in every conversation in every room, and so this is a lot of fun for me, and I look forward to a fruitful conversation.
Thank you, Senator Simon, and we all welcome you to the council. We'll need a little bit of your expertise, and certainly as a subject matter expert, we covered your expertise as it relates to this subject matter. So thank you so much.
Happy to be here.
Next, I would like to go ahead and welcome Councilman Reggie Leon. Councilman Leon?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilman Reggie Leon from the city of Miami Gardens, largest African American city in the state of Florida. I'm also parents board member of 100 Black Men in South Florida. I'm also part of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence. And I also do some mentoring with our Lamplighters. I'm part of the Celestial Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And so, service is what I continue to do and continue to working with these young Black males. I'm also a corporate operation manager for UPS. So what we've done down here is created a pipeline for those kids that don't want to go to college, but we want to give them an opportunity to make a fair wage. So we get a lot of them employed with UPS. So that's just some of what I do. Again, I'm glad to be on board.
Thank you, Councilman. What we had the opportunity to speak on the telephone, and I'm very excited about what you bring to the table and how this will be able to assist the council. So once again, from the bottom of my heart, and welcome to the council. So finally, please join me in welcoming Alexander Jordan Sr. This is from the Department of Education, and I would love to hear from certainly Mr. Jordan Sr. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How everyone doing today? It's an honor and pleasure to be amongst so much of great talent and mindsets of how we can address the council status of men and boys. And I'm delighted on behalf of Commissioner Manny Diaz to be part of this, to show what we as a collective talent can do from education, from criminal justice, from DJJ, and of course the senators who are here on the conference with us today, but as well as those who were not able to join us. I've been in Tallahassee over 35 years, started involved with youth with AAU basketball back in '97. And into that, also I've been working with boys in my youth foundation as well, focusing on education and STEM and how that our education in our business in our world could also translate to what kids may be doing in the near future, from engineering, from STEM to whatever it may be in that field, STEM. But at the same time, my involvement today, I'm just delighted to be able to be a resource to bring. And to my good brother, I'm a man of alpha, so we do educate our boys in our community as well. I see you there, sister, and I know I got brother Clay over there who's in the background who got my back. So with that said, I'm delighted to bring my expertise and my background for 30 years plus in the state government. So again, thank you all.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought all those points and elements up. Certainly, your expertise again is going to be able to be such an invaluable source for us. So once again, welcome to all of our new members. We're thrilled to have you with us, and we look forward to the positive impact that you'll be able to help assist us with, especially with the council's work that we have coming up. We have a robust agenda today, and just to try to go ahead and break down where we are here on the council. Before session began last year, we have made a pitch to go ahead and really put our appropriation for request in. We were able to go ahead and do that, but at some point in time, the ball, whether it was dropped or we were looked over, we were it was not submitted. Let's just put it that way. That, full disclosure, that angered me greatly. And I never want to be in that position again, where we do not put in our appropriation request in a timely fashion, even with more than enough time. So if we have to make any changes or we see something that needs to be addressed, we'd have more than ample enough time. So this is where we are. And so now with the next agenda item, we'll now discuss the budget projection for the next 3 to 5 years. This includes several key areas in personnel costs, research grants, capital expenditures, operating expenses, training and development, collaborations and partnerships with a contingency fund plan, and evaluation and review of where we need to be at. So what I was able to build out in this agenda was to speak a little bit about each and every one of these. And we understand that the personal costs is going to be the largest expense for us. It includes the salary, wages, and benefits for the staff and for the researchers that we have. It also covers the cost for visiting researchers or temporary staff. Um, this has been the bulk of our budget, and thus, at some point in time, the Office of the Attorney General shared that with us. As our budget, as we were able to secure a bigger budget, they since dropped off with that share and put that all on us. Fair or not fair, that's where what we are experiencing now. So monies where we thought that we would be able to use for the benefit of the council, that has now disappeared. And thus we have to build out this budget that will go ahead and compensate for those matters. And so those are some of the things that I do want to build out. I want to make it abundantly clear that as of right now, I believe we're at $350,000 a year for our budget. It's a recurring budget, but we probably need is twice as much, or even more than that, to be at least to realize all of our goals and our dreams as we move forward and take a look at what we can do to give information to our council members and certainly to our decision makers, in the Florida State House and Senate. So this is where we are at right now. And I wanted to be very clear about those matters. As we take a look at the research grants and projects, of course, it's self-explanatory where these funds are allocated to support our various research activities. And a little bit later on today, we're going to go ahead and speak a little bit about our next annual report that's coming up at the end of December that we will give to the Florida Congress and to all the stakeholders in the state of Florida. So this is one of the things that we want to take a look at too, and we have been with staff as looking for grants to be awarded. And so we also, because our staff we don't have many staff members. We're comprised of, an executive director, a research coordinator, and certainly a research assistant. We've had to shuffle some things around due to the new budget reality that we're in now. And so we do know that we'll need to go ahead and build that up. Third is the capital expenditures. The investment in our really our long-term assets, such as our equipment, our technology that we'll need as we expand. And my desires is at some point in time to have additional research assistants. If we cannot have that, then we're going to have to outsource. And so I built that into the agenda also. The other part of it is the operating expenses that we have. So, we're talking about, certainly we pay rent to the Office of the Attorney General. There are office supplies, and lastly, our travel expenses for our staff to get to other places in the state as we are diligently trying to figure out what are some of the causes that are keeping the social status of Black men and boys in a challenging vex. And so that's where we're looking at right now in terms of, for these expenditures for all things like conferences and really doing field research. So that is one of the things that we're taking a look at. And the next thing is for training and development. Naturally, we want to go ahead and have a well-trained staff and to continue to build out that budget as it relates to professional development. So we want to go ahead and make sure that we have and we equip them with the operational skills to continue on doing the council's work. We all here on the council, we enjoy full-time jobs, some of us 2 or 3 jobs, but our dedicated staff are here to assist us as we put on certainly each and every year an annual report for consumption. The next thing that I want to talk about is how setting the funds aside for collaborative research initiatives. If we don't have the personnel um, to assist us, then naturally we're going to have some type of collaboration and partnership with other entities so we can go ahead and create, a robust annual report. Last year's annual report was fantastic, but we aim to go ahead and be as consistent as we possibly can to meet that threshold or even beyond. So collaboration and partnerships, as we take a look in the 3 or 5 year outlook, that will be very, very, very key. Uh, Next is the contingency funds, a reserve to cover unexpected costs or emergencies, which is basically some of the things that every organization has to take a look at when they are dealing with a long-term budget. We had dealt with a little bit of that just recently in regards to some of the researchers that we're working with and some other institutions. So it's imperative that we build that into the budget too. And then lastly, we want to go ahead and take a look at what that evaluation and review will look like, including all the data that is coming in. And just really take a look at not only the findings that we have, but are we doing the best job in terms of monitoring and evaluating those particular outcomes? So those were some of the things that I have thoughts about in the next 3 to 5 years. And we'll be discussing those things quite truthfully in great detail as we move along, particularly with building out the budget for the next fiscal year. Does anybody have any thoughts, ideas, or comments about that particular section we just spoke about? Okay, if not, then at this point in time, we're going to go to the next agenda item. We're going to speak about the mental wellness update for our research coordinator, Yada. So just update the council on what's been going on so far and give us a brief synopsis of what we're trying to do with this year's annual report and how we're going to take it to a next level in the upcoming years. Yada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. During our last meeting, we had an in-depth discussion on transitioning from a one-year study model, whereas the council would vote on a topic for that year, and we would spend our year focusing on that and do our annual report, and then switch gears the next year. So we talked about that in transitioning from that model to a multi-year study. In the last meeting, we did make a case for transitioning to this type of model. If you recall, I mentioned that here we only have 3 employees, and we use that same model, and the turnover can be a lot, but not necessarily produce the benefits or the results that I'm sure that the council would like. So it would be beneficial to everyone to move to a multi-year study, and some of those benefits included providing evidence-based research so that we could move forward and improve the programs here in Florida, programs and services here in Florida. It would also help to strengthen the council's reputation as a research entity. It would provide a firm groundwork in terms of looking at budgetary requests, because we would be giving them that evidence-based research. And last but not least, it would strengthen the council's ability to really gain, I guess, some influence in terms of legislation and government policies. And of course, there are many more benefits, but these are the types of things that we really looked at last meeting. And so this year, the council has decided to, like I said, conduct a comprehensive 3-year study on mental health of Black men and boys. And we would be examining the prevention and intervention strategies, looking at Black adolescent boys and also Black male adults. Now, the council has partnered with a research firm called Recapturing the Vision to carry out this study. And currently they are in the process of developing and designing a presentation and a report detailing the proposed research projects. And this is something that we can use to for demonstration purposes when we're before lawmakers, key stakeholders, and other funders. And our due dates for that are coming up very soon. So if you recall, the total cost for the framework development and the presentation was $30,000. Now, this firm has been gracious enough to break the costs associated with this project up for us because we only had a certain amount in this fiscal year. So we would produce the remaining amounts in a new scope of work during the next fiscal year to complete the framework per se. So where are we now? We have successfully paid for part one of this three-step process, and that cost that we paid out was $10,000. We've also identified some organizations and some agencies that could serve as potential partners in carrying out the research project. So of course, we're doing the framework right now. We're setting down the framework and the groundwork for this project, but we do need funds to carry it out. And so we are going ahead and reaching out to individuals. And also part of the presentation purpose was so that we can use that to help us as well when we approach agencies and organizations of the like whose ideas are in alignment with what we're trying to do. We're also working on developing a research budget to kind of show funders and the legislature what will really be needed to carry out the actual research project itself. So we know that we have operational costs in-house, but what does it really look like to fund something like this? And so when asking for additional funds, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. And so we're working on that on the back end. We have also continued to work on the annual report. We did present last time a discussion about what would actually be inside of the annual report this year. And the primary content for the annual report this year is going to include our 5-year strategic plan. So what we're going to be doing is going to be a very high level plan, showing our readers what we're going to do and where we're going to go within the next 5 years in terms of research. It will include an end of the year review. So what we've done all year and try to give our readers, paint a picture of what the council's been doing. It will also include our accomplishments and different steps that we've taken to get us to this particular point. And it will include an ample assessment on mental health. So we know that we're on the back end working on a project, but also we want to give the readers in this particular annual report the current state and also maybe contributing factors and also advocacy within our agencies and organizations statewide. So we're going to start this process of introducing mental health to our readers, because this will be a 3-year process where we'll continue to revisit the mental health portion until our project is complete. And of course, last but not least, the policy recommendations. And we'll include, of course, the study that we're developing, and we're going to use those findings as a means to improve mental wellness and implement new strategies. So that will be the focus of our recommendations. Also, one of the other things that we like to do is we would like to find out what people are already doing in the community. If you all recall, there was an email that was sent out, and attached to that email was a flyer, and it was a request for information from each of the council members asking, what is your organization or agency doing in the realm of mental health for Black males, and also what you're doing just in general for Black males. That's something that we want to start incorporating in our annual report. It's a great plug for your agency, but also it just lets people know what's out there and what's being done on the topic of study. So I don't believe we received any feedback as of yet, but I do believe the due date for that information is June the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct, Sydney? Do you remember? Okay, thank you. So
Yes, sir.
we will send out the flyer again, just in case you all missed it, but that's going to be very vital. It's very important to us to show our readers what we're doing and what our agencies connected to us are doing as well. And the last thing I just want to mention is, in terms of the annual report, we are working right now with our litigation support team here in the office to design the report cover and also the design layout. So that's something that is also in the works as well. These are the updates that I have for you, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions?
Members, do you have any questions for Yada King? She did an excellent presentation.
I have a question. It's Senator Osgood. Thank you so much for that presentation. In the research that we're doing around mental health, will we capture if the young men have had any diagnosis of any of their ACEs been identified, the adverse childhood experiences? I'm on the Broward Behavior Health Coalition board, and we've been looking at a lot of information that's kind of telling us how we're doing schools wrong, in the sense that we start evaluating and looking at adverse childhood experiences when children are in middle school, but we know the brain is like 80% developed at 3 years old and almost 90% at 5 years old. So a recent study was done by a lady at FAU, and I'm not remembering her name, that talked about what happens to young men, especially Black men, at 6 months old in a year when they, hear violence and trauma. It was just very, very intriguing. And those things have to be addressed. And it seems like we're waiting now too late to start addressing them. So in our partnerships, do we have any group connected already that's tracking ACEs with our kids?
I'm not quite sure if the organization we're working with is associated with the group, but I do know that they are experts in their field, so it would not be surprising to me. That is something that I have brought up to the researchers, so that is something that we would be delving into. The organization that is conducting the framework will also be responsible for pushing the project itself. But that is definitely something that we're looking into. Yes, ma'am. And
Thank
also,
you.
I do want to mention, we're doing 2 different studies. So we have the Black adolescent males, which would be the prevention component, and then Black males who are college and beyond would be the intervention portion as well.
I'm just trying to make an argument for my babies.
Yes, ma'am. I thoroughly understand. We have you covered.
It's always good hearing from Senator Osgood. As you know, she is certainly one of our hard chargers. I have a few on the council, especially some of the aforementioned new council members. So I'm really excited about the collective and how we're able to go ahead and really formulate. All of us together, we can really push a particular agenda. We're going to give our legislative members as much tools as we need and we can to change some policies. And those policy recommendations that we make on the annual report are going to be significant as we show how, if we can go ahead and improve certain matters we can really move the agenda forward for Black males and boys here in the state of Florida. So I'm excited to hear about that. Our next portion is, and I alluded to it earlier today, it was in regards to our staff is very small. So it's important that we become a little bit innovative in expanding our research capabilities And what that means basically is outsourcing to other groups and institutions some of the research activities that would overwhelm us and consume us if we were to do it all by ourselves. So I think that this is a move and a strategic move to go ahead and take all what we have and leverage other specialized knowledge and put it all together under our umbrella or organization. So that's another step in improving where we're at right now and some of the details that we're going to be putting into the budget. So I do wanted to say that these are matters that we've discussed as a staff, and that as a council, we understand that this is probably the next steps in doing what we need to do to go ahead and put out a product so our legislative members can champion those causes for us. So I do want to go ahead and I would be remiss if I didn't mention those matters. So those are one of the things I really wanted to go and speak about today. The next thing I do want to talk about is, naturally, is basically how we take a look at, we talked about the access to specialized skills and technology. We really talked about, what we really need to talk about also is the cost efficiency and how us, outsourcing these projects and tasks and how to manage our budget more effectively. It'll be critical as, certainly at any point in time, any member from the legislature could ask us about how we are trying to achieve our goals and what do we have to show for it. So we have a comprehensive plan that's going to be detailed, enhancing those capabilities and focus on our core activities and on those strengths that we have on a strategic level. So I just wanted to go ahead and be extremely blunt on how we are planning to give the power to our legislative members and really have them have all those tools that they would need just in case someone wants to go ahead and bring it to our attention about our efforts. Next is, really how we're going to vet our research organizations, and particularly our external research organizations. So it's essential to carefully vet these research organizations as we partner and consider a pathway with them. We just need to ensure that they have the necessary expertise, strong references, compatibility with our work style, and some of the challenges that state workers have to deal with in terms of with the collaboration, paying them. It could be the red tape with that. It can be cumbersome and slow. So I know that has been a hiccup here and there. And so we also have to, navigate some robust intellectual property and certainly the data security practices. And, as I mentioned before, some of the contractual agreements that we need to have with the council as it relates to the state and how it dispenses funds to those organizations. So I just wanted to go ahead and I put onto the agenda some of the light items that we will look at with the expertise and the credentials, the references, the reputation, certainly the compatibility, the intellectual property and data security, as I just talked about, and contractual clarity. That's key at the end because certainly we don't want any type of misunderstandings of the expectations that they have and that we are trying to achieve on our own. So I do want to go ahead and make that abundantly clear. Next on the item is some old business. And I would like to go ahead and, I believe Terrell has this in regards to receiving an update on the progress of our website revamp, or even Sydney. So excuse me if I don't know which
Yes,
one has the issue.
Sydney.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Sorry if it's a little noisy. We have construction people outside of our building. So I did hear back from Clinton Groves. He is our website designer. He was unable to give us a mock-up. Let me start. I'm sorry. Yesterday, I had a brief meeting with him. We are looking to revamp our website, make it more modern for us. What we currently have was something that was implemented before I got here, I think a couple years ago, just to have it's like a startup website for us. So we took it upon ourselves to try to make something a little bit more updated. And I had sent him some examples to see what he can do for us. And he said sometime this week he will give us a mock up of those examples I sent him with our information just to see how he would like it. He wasn't able to get it to me today. He was able to give me a quote for anything. And what he had mentioned was for just, the design layout with the same content and information, he said it would cost about $2,500 coming out of our budget. And if we wanted to add any pages or any special effects, he said the price would go up from there. And this is something I had just gotten right before our meeting started, so it's new information for everyone. But that is all I have so far for our website update. And then just conversations going forward if that's something we would like to do.
Okay, thank you, Sydney. Does anybody have any questions for Sydney in regards to the website?
Chair, I have a quick question for Cindy. May I ask, who
Please.
had done the content in before? Who had previously done the content in the existing website?
So I believe before I came on board, Clinton was the one putting out all of our information on our website by our request here in the office. Once I came along, we had a brief training, me, Yada, and Terrell, in regards to how we can control it, so we wouldn't have to constantly have to call him and be like, hey, can you update this or upload this? I will say updating our website could be more consistent on our end, just with more information and just what we like to put out there. We are really focused on our social media right now, trying to keep that as consistent as we can, introducing new members and just any information we're willing to put out as things come along, especially with our research this year. But right now it's us here in office, mainly me. But with all I'm taking all requests, anything you guys would want to put out there on your behalf as a council member or whatever you're doing in your agency, we would love to highlight. We are trying to get our platform on a bigger scale so people do know who we are. But yeah, that's where we're at so far.
Thank you very much, because we also have to remember our brand also speak for itself when you have a good brand. And if we can work on improving our brand, then that will also take care of the social media, because people will want to follow us. And then at the same time, they have a good site that, it's as you mentioned, it's a beginner site, but I just wanted to find out who was responsible for that, because Chair, we might have to look at that as well, who and where the budget lies, and to be able to maintain it and keep up with it. So we just want to keep that in the back of our mind as we move forward on that. Just want to share that with you all.
Mr. Jordan, as a point of privilege, I'll go ahead and expand a little bit of your concern on that. Just to give you some context before with everything that Sydney was talking about is true, but the Office of the Attorney General had in their IT department had control of the website at that point in time. And this is for everyone who is new, trying to understand why we went to a design and the council absorbed this. At that point in time, the Office of the Attorney General was not excited that the Florida Council on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys wanted to transition to their own website, because our desires was also to build out a social media portion to our website. And from what I understand, with each new administration, this administration at the Office of the Attorney General discouraged that. And that's their prerogative. And certainly I have a responsibility to each and every one of you to go ahead and really execute what the desires of the council is. The council at that time made it abundantly clear that we needed to go ahead and be more proactive in terms of our website and also our social media, which was non-existent at the time. So basically, we had to build that out. And some of that pain that we saw was that just to go ahead and do a website and to create social media presence is a significant cost just by itself. And it's what some of the things that you were just alluding to, our brand, and people will be attracted to our brand to keep on taking a look and hearing our message, which then in turn will help us as we are trying to go ahead and lift certain things on a policy level. So you brought up a good point as it relates to that. So what I identified at the time was that the website in itself, and they meant well, but it was stale. It really wasn't attracting anything. We were, I just thought that for the messaging that we needed to get out, we had to be a bit more diverse and dynamic. And certainly that website did not offer that. And we had no social media presence whatsoever. So that this is part of the growing pains of transitioning into having a vendor do this for us with a limited amount of income. And thus, this is some of the things that you're hearing about now.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sydney, for all the great work that you have been doing and the rest of the team to maintain that. And so again, I look forward as we move forward. So again, thank you both.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any comments about that? Is there any new business that the council members would like to bring up for discussion? I'm more than happy to hear this.
I just have one quick question, well, a comment about the social media. If you can put that in the chat so that we all can have it. I don't have it.
Oh, yes. If you could, Sydney, so we can go ahead and have that.
Yeah, I'll put it in right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any other council members that have anything else to bring up for discussion? All right, next, I want to go ahead and talk about the Man-Up program. And Terrell, will you discuss the implementation meeting that you had down here in Florida with a very unique partner that we have? So I'd love to hear more about the unique organization that you were able to meet up with.
Yeah, so about a week ago, I was able to meet with the program director of Educate Tomorrow. Educate Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization in Miami, Florida, and they specifically deal with foster children and children who come from low socioeconomic environments. And essentially, what they do is they provide resources to those students. Well, I also got the opportunity to meet up with an organization, a nonprofit organization called Motivational Edge, which is a nonprofit organization that assists also foster students, homeless students, and students in low socioeconomic areas. But what they do is they kind of put a unique spin on it. So it's kind of a after school summer camp. It's an after school as well as a summer camp. And what they do is that they teach students how to express their angers and their frustrations through the arts. And so you have students in there that want to be singers, rappers, they want to play instruments, they want to do all these great and amazing things. One of the things that, and I also got the chance to speak with a counselor at Miami-Dade College. So one of the things that the program director told me at Educate Tomorrow is that Miami, there is a huge deficit when it relates to them actually having organizations for your not so active young black man. And so even when I went down to Miami-Dade College, a lot of the individuals that I was talking to were young black women, and a lot of the young black men were not as present. One of the things that in all of my meetings, one of the most prevalent things that I kept hearing is that in the Miami area, a lot of black men are not showing up for themselves because they don't feel valued, They don't feel seen, nor do they feel heard. So a lot of them don't feel that they have to put their best foot forward to really do anything because they don't believe that people really care about them. And so I'm supposed to return again this summer with the hopes that I'll be able to partner up with Educate Tomorrow so that we can go ahead and pass the baton and give them the Man Up program, which essentially would turn into a professional mentoring organizations where they'll have various professionals in the actual Miami-Dade area mentoring an array of young black men. And then what we also want to do is possibly partner up with Miami-Dade College to have some of their young black men mentoring elementary, middle, and high school young men. So it was a really, really great experience. I think that above all else, it was an experience that showed me how grateful we should be. A lot of students are at a lack thereof. A lot of students really don't have the family support. I didn't realize that the foster care system was the statistics and the percentage of the foster care system is at an all-time high. At Motivational Edge, 30% of their students are in the foster care system. And so that's a pretty large number. And so a lot of young men are not feeling loved, they're not feeling wanted or seen. So it is super important that we are putting our best efforts across the state of Florida. So I do understand that on the legislative side, there are things that we can do, but anything that we can do outside of the legislative side, I do think that we have to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. So there's something in every city. And as Chair Hill spoke, one of the major things is that we're going to need money to really go to those cities to really see what's going on inside of those cities, because it's hard to make recommendations for an entire state of Florida when we only know about maybe one or two cities. And so that's all I have for you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Terrell. Does anybody have any questions or comments to our executive director?
Chair, may I speak? And on this matter, you guys would learn that Alex Jordan is a talker, and I love talking about the things that matters. I'm not going to speak if it doesn't, because it's not time. But I know Steve Rios, Dr. Steve Rios at Educate Tomorrow. Known him for about 15 years, and they're trying to do some great things down there. And I've been involved with the foster care program a lot from higher ed. And again, what you mentioned, Terrell, there is a very lack of black male presence in that community as a whole. I know our senators and our representatives down in that area, the just the nature of more folks coming into the community who don't look like me or you, Terrell, and I'm just speaking upon what it is, that we do need to get more involved with those individuals in those communities. But it takes money. But it also allows us what we're doing now to zoom in and meet with some of those individuals. Madeline Permiega, who's the president of Miami-Dade, who has a great presence of understanding the dynamic of what's going on with Steve Rios in that group, because me and her worked together a lot for many of years. So I'm just letting you know, Chair and Executive Director Nelson, that I would be delighted to provide support on that initiative, because it's something that I had already been thinking about. Because I'm here in Daytona right now, just got finished presenting at a conference here as pertains to higher ed. So you can just put me down, Chair Hill and Nelson, to provide any support I can, because I've had a good relationship with them over the years.
Outstanding. Terrell, I guess we got our marching order. So if you can get with, certainly, I'm really heartened to hear about that. So get with Mr. Jordan and see how we can go ahead and facilitate this and expand it. That'd be really great. And in the meantime, we'll be making a few more visits to go ahead and see how we can go ahead and even model some of the wonderful things that they're doing in that area and make it statewide. And that we would love your input on it, Mr. Jordan.
It's an honor to serve.
So the next thing I want to go ahead and bring up as a point of privilege is a little bit to go back to what Yada King was talking about in regards to particularly our State Department representatives. So if you have any programs that are that you want to go ahead and identify in regards to helping Black males in your organization, please, 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 if you can, send that over to Yada Kane, Terrell, or even Sydney. We like to highlight your organization, your departments and agencies, because we know that you have those programs and they do exist, and thus it isn't really detailed to other individuals or even other organizations. We want to go ahead and really raise that profile. And certainly this gives us an opportunity to do that. And I believe, if I'm heard Yada correct, it was by the 22nd or the 25th. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I made an error. The date is actually June the 3rd.
June the 3rd. That
So my
doesn't give us
apologies.
much time. Okay. That really doesn't give us much time. Is there any, is that a hard set date, Yada?
No, we're flexible. So by the end of this month, the end of June would be great.
Can we do that? Yeah, if possible. And if that's an agreement with everybody on with all the other members, let's go ahead and give us till the end of June to go
Okay.
ahead and see if you could go ahead and send those submittals to us. And we love to go ahead and profile your organizations as we're doing that. So we really appreciate it if you can do that. Next, I want to go ahead and now open the floor to any type of public comments. For those who are in the public that are listening in, please limit your comments to 2 minutes to allow everyone a chance to speak. Is there anyone in the public that would like to go ahead and speak in regards to some of the matters we spoke about today? Hearing none, I'm going to open up the floor to any of our council members. Does anybody else want to make a comment in regards to some of the things that we're aspiring to do and what the council is really aiming to change within the next really fiscal year coming up? Not hearing anything, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to thank you all for your participation and contributions today. If there are no further comments, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting for today?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Have a great day and thank you everyone for your participation. Be safe.